market to an audience that, by and large is, either still living with parents or like more recently out of the house, you're not going to be showing them in large, extravagant looking spaces, right? Even if it's a product that you're, marketing on the upper end of the wallet, spectrum, you shouldn't be putting them in extraordinarily, lavish spaces. If your intent is to, market at least someday to millennials and Gen Z, I can't relate to looking at an image of a speaker in this whether it's a super rustic, large country home or whether it's a, massive modern space. I can't relate if it's like a very large area. I mean, most people in my age group do not live in very large spaces.
So I don't know if they're looking to have millennials when we look at these, if this is something we're supposed to be striving for. Like one day, I will have this giant house, or I will be able to have this space in this giant, $500,000 speakers in my home. So I don't know if it's supposed to be inspirational or what it's supposed to be, but I don't think that these are really marketed towards millennials right now. I think that these are definitely people who are a little bit older than the millennial bracket, who have some disposable income for them. I think I'm on the older tier of the millennial kind of bracket, and it being in that place where we're kind of just starting to buy homes. I don't even think that, except for the bookshelf speakers, these would be plausible in any of these homes that we're looking at. So I think, the space is important, and I think that really thinking about that and what message you're trying to convey to a younger age set is important.
Yeah, I think for me it's all about versatility. Like the ability for these speakers to fit into a lot of different spaces, because not everybody stays tied to the exact same place that they've been their whole lives. People move around for jobs or for, significant others or whatever it is. So buying speakers that are a good match for a large number of different spaces is probably a key thing, at least for me as a millennial. Like I'm not looking to buy something that's a piece of art that also functions as a speaker. Like really the only one I can think of is that sort of picture one that you can kind of have. It's both a picture and a speaker. That's something you could bring around to different places because all you need is a wall. And I mean, presumably you can change the photo if you really wanted to. But beyond that, it sort of feels like the classic look of like a bookshelf speaker is going to be what most people are going to be able to afford and what I would aspire to own in most situations. Yeah, I would say, color is definitely important because you're trying to match something to the style of your existing space or something that'll work in a lot of different spaces. I think matte black, a lot of matte colors like that, natural woods, all those kind of things look pretty good universally, and that's definitely what I would gravitate towards personally.
I would agree with that. I think like mine are matte black, but I think like a high gloss is fine too. Wood is always great, just to kind of bring in that natural element to it.
Yeah, we might be in the minority if we're saying that we don't mind or even sometimes prefer the look of a wood finish for our age group. And in that respect, I think it would be wise to market speakers with a number of different color choices and, finish choices. I could see, glossed black or white being probably the most common, options there. Maybe then followed by other things that go with everything, like a wood finish or like a gray, that kind of thing. I guess it depends on the size of the line. If it's a small line that is trying to keep things more minimal, then go with black, white, gray, simple matte or gloss finishes like that. But if a company that makes speakers has enough of a budget, then they should definitely try to expand color choices to, the fullest extent that they can. speak for everybody in my age bracket when I say that I think smaller is better usually, because I'm sure there are some people who, for the right price would probably buy something that is, maybe a medium size, like not 6 feet tall by any means, but I would struggle to think of anybody I know who would go for something like that. But maybe 3 or 4 feet tall at max, if is again price dependent. But generally speaking, I think most people in our age bracket, again, they're living in somewhat smaller spaces than generations before us were our age. And like Andrew had mentioned, we're moving around a lot for jobs or other life factors. So something that can be moved with a relative ease is probably going to be something around, 2 or 3 feet tall max or smaller, depending. But yeah, size is an issue. I would definitely say that it's safer to go smaller, but not necessarily necessary.
I agree with that. I think the 6 foot tall ones are really out of the realm of possibilities, particularly if you're a renter. Not just even talking about space, but the amount of power that probably puts out is no one's going to be happy with you. So I wouldn't personally buy them. And I do think like a bookshelf, maybe max 3 feet would be a good one. Something definitely like on a podium or something like that could really work. That being said, I do know a lot of people now who are starting to rent bigger spaces. So something a little bit bigger might work for them depending on what their layout looks like.
Yeah, for me, I think I'd rather have a bunch of smaller speakers in a room than a couple of large speakers, because then you have a little more flexibility of where you place them, or you might want to even just like put them in different rooms, however you want to do it. I think that's why certain companies that offer packages like that have become really popular right now, is that it just provides a lot of flexibility, and I think that's really the name of the game right now. I don't really need my cat using a 6 foot, speaker as a glorified scratching post. I'm going to be really upset if that happens. They're not going to mess around with like a tiny little cube. So I think, those are all considerations. So we looked at a lot of bookshelf speakers, and I think that's a good starting point for, companies to get into. But what I'd really like to see is sort of like an all-in-one system. Like there's a couple of companies that have become very popular that do exactly this. They'll offer you, a receiver and a couple of speakers and maybe even a subwoofer, and they're all interconnected. That's something that I think a lot of millennials enjoy, is the ability to just kind of plug and play, have it basically ready for you when you get home. You don't have to worry about anything. There's not a whole lot of lag time between buying the product and being able to use the product. And I think that also transitions well into the marketing. Like you need to explain to people that these are simple. When you get into higher tier audio equipment, there's usually kind of a bit of a cloud of like, do I know what I'm doing? Do I have enough knowledge of audio and equipment to be able to make this stuff work well? And, I think at least in my case, I work as, an editor for a living on a magazine like this, and I'm not even sure that I could handle some of the stuff that I see come through our magazine on a regular basis. So I think just making the connection between this is easy to use and also you get a lot of stuff for your money is pretty important. I'm willing to spend a couple of $1,000s on a really nice system and save up to be able to afford that in the future, but you got to tell me why it's worth it.
I agree with that. I think that an all-in-one system, I think, is definitely more marketable at this point. Like, I think, with the exception of the people sitting in this room, I don't know anyone else who has an actual speaker system. Like we were talking about before, everyone I know has like these portable Bluetooth, like, they have those speakers kind of with them so they can take it and walk out and do whatever they want with it. And they're not forced to be in one room when listening to those things. And I know they make systems where you can have it throughout your home. But again, if you're a renter and it needs to be hardwired, that becomes an issue. So I think that's definitely going to be an issue in marketing. I do think, though, if people are starting to move into that stage of life where this is something they want, bookshelf speakers are probably going to be the best thing. I know we talked about it before. Rents are going up higher and higher. Fewer and fewer people are buying homes. So 6-foot speakers are really not something that anyone can really have in their home. Bookshelf speakers, though, and running that, throughout your home is an easy thing to do. And I think watching a YouTube video or two is not, that's definitely going to help. And, also integrators are also play a big role in that as well. So, I don't really know what the solution is for a younger generation, but I think moving more towards a smaller movable piece is probably the best way to go.
So you had mentioned before about how our generation, millennials, have kind of brought, records and turntables sort of back from the brink a little bit. And I definitely agree with that analysis. I think that anybody who's intending to market, loudspeakers to our generation and those after us needs to kind of keep in mind what we did for turntables, right? So I think that for me, the reason why I own records and then the reason why I own a turntable is because I heard the quality difference between, what I listen to on basic, ear pods while I'm at work or while I'm in the car. Or I don't really listen on the ear pods in the car, but, that kind of thing. Versus listening to something, making it an experience and sitting down and enjoying the quality that, turntables offer. So if you can, as Andrew kind of hinted at, demonstrate why owning loudspeakers to begin with will give the buyers something different and an experience and something that is of particularly high quality for the price, that's definitely a selling point. I mean, I guess it sounds very basic to say that, but again, in a generation that is increasingly going more towards the AirPods, streaming, and small, compact, very portable types of solutions, you need to differentiate yourself as a loudspeaker company, as a company that understands that you want to watch a YouTube video and have it sound just as nice as when you're listening to a record, or making an actual experience out of what you're doing with the audio. If you can provide a solution that for the money provides that extreme quality differential while also having that wireless capability, also having that sort of invitational feeling of wanting to use it both in a low-key and a sit-down, purposeful way, then you have something, decent on your hands, I would say.